After they encounter these beings and then they break the trance, the father says this too, Bobby, because he went back in the house, so he wasn't actually there for the crash of the spaceship. But when he was coming outside the door from the house, maybe he went in for a cup of coffee or something, and he was frozen at the door. So not only was Angel and his brother frozen like sleep paralysis, and this is a new revelation because recently I was re-listening to the extended 911 call. The 911 call that most people heard about this case is like a 1-minute phone call, but that 1 minute is taken from a larger 10-minute 911 call.
Welcome. I'm here with Scott Roeder. Scott, welcome back.
Thank you. How you doing, Sean?
Doing well.
Good.
All right. You have an update on Vegas. I think this is the second update.
I do, yeah. I just issued a 20-page addendum to my Vegas report. And just to give everybody a little reminder of what that is, on April 30th, May 1st of 2023, there was what people are calling a meteor that raced through the sky at a very low trajectory and impacted in the backyard of this family in Las Vegas, the Kenmore family. That's not their real name, but it's a pseudonym that they are using to protect their identity. And shortly after midnight, Angel and his brother and the father, Bobby, were in the backyard kind of working on their truck. And they have a kind of a real big industrial backyard. And they heard an impact. And immediately they come face to face with two 8 to 10 feet tall beings, greenish and dark color, big eyes, big mouth, with a light floating by the side of their head. And they were paralyzed, couldn't move. Angel described it as like a sleep paralysis. He was the main witness to really go public. And the mother came out afterward, and then they went all back into the backyard again, and she was filming it with her cell phone. And that's the famous video where we actually were able to capture several visitors, to use a Whitley
Real
Street.
quick, how did they break out of the sleep paralysis, like the family?
That's a great question. Angel said he invoked the name of Jesus Christ.
And they just broke out of it.
And it broke out. Yeah.
All right, continue. I just wanted to establish that.
Yeah, this is what he said. He's on the record. And I think...
Did he say it to you personally, or did he say it?
No, he said that in an interview with Inside Edition.
Okay.
Yeah. Although I have spoke with Angel, although he is cut off communication at this point. So anyway, what happened was after they encounter these beings and then they break the trance, the father says this too, Bobby, because he went back in the house, so he wasn't actually there for the crash of the spaceship. But when he was coming outside the door from the house, maybe he went in for a cup of coffee or something, and he was frozen at the door. So not only was Angel and his brother frozen like sleep paralysis, and this is a new revelation because recently I was re-listening to the extended 911 call. The 911 call that most people heard about this case is like a 1-minute phone call, but that 1 minute is taken from a larger 10-minute 911 call, where it's not just Angel, but his father, Bobby, gets on the phone. And we get to hear, it's on my page. You can go to Crime Scene Time Machine Podcast. You'll find it there. You can go to my Twitter X account, Scott Roeder at CSTM. You'll find it there. Below. We'll put it here. Jim Quirk's got it.
Where did you get the full recording?
We got it from the Las Vegas Police Department.
To advertise on Through Glass Darkly, email throughglassdarkly@gmail.com.
Does anybody else have it out there if they haven't downloaded it?
Yeah, I mean, they should. It's out there. It's available for the public. It's not that hard to find.
Okay, anyway, I didn't mean to cut your flow. Keep going.
No, that's fine. Listen, you are the flow, bro.
So you have the full 10-minute video.
Yeah. We're 10 minute. We have the full 10-minute 911
audio.
call. Yeah.
Yeah.
But because, we were so focused on the video of the 1 minute, 47-second video that became world famous for this encounter, which I personally think is the Zapruder film of all the alien footage. It is, in my opinion, absolute proof of visitors here on Earth. And this is what should be talked about in front of Congress and Congressman Luna and the other guys. This is the case because we actually get to see who is in the craft. Okay. Like Eric Davis, he comes out, there's 4 kinds of aliens, right? Yeah. Okay. Show us the guys. I'm showing you the guys. Right. I feel like the Joker in the very first Batman, where he's like, who are you going to trust? I'm giving out free money. Hubba, hubba. I'm giving out aliens, baby. We're showing you a picture of what they actually look like. And these jokers, Lou Elizondo and those bunch of bozos, they're showing you pictures of Tic Tacs and gimbals and things that are 10 years old, 16 years old. This just happened.
And irrigation circles. And irrigation
circles and chandeliers and all this stuff. At this point, I think Dr. Stephen Greer has more credibility than Lou Elizondo. The whole News Nation thing, they're bringing out an entire lineup of these whistleblowers. You got the man who fell in love with the egg. You got David Grush, who I like. I think David Grush is legit. But anyway.
David Grush is not a real whistleblower. He's been authorized to disclose what he's disclosed.
That's right. Yeah. And they're all being handled by Christopher Mellon, right? Banking family heiress, deep state general, former mayor of Area 51, who in 2016 was on the record in an interview. Oh, the U.S. government doesn't have control of any. Aliens aren't real. There's no such thing as UFOs. These don't exist. You guys know what you're talking about. And then the next year, he's like, oh, hey, there's aliens, guys. We're in danger. Come on. He's full of shit.
By the way, that was, a year right after the WikiLeaks with the Podesta emails.
Oh God! Don't get me started with Podesta. Podesta.
So that may have triggered that 2017 modified limited hangout.
Yeah, I think you're right. That's interesting. A lot of people, they all think about the WikiLeaks as Hillary's leaked emails, right? Right? Or did she deleted 40,000 emails or something? And then they find all the hot dog pizza coded language with Podesta. Right. And the Pizzagate stuff, because that's really where Pizzagate came from. Pizzagate came from WikiLeaks because Hillary Clinton's emails and John Podesta and his perverted brother, those guys are the devil. I mean, these guys are the most evil people I've ever seen in researching murder for 25 years. I've never seen anybody more evil than the Podesta brothers.
All right, but let's stay on track before YouTube bans the video.
But we're just going to just let the record clear. Mm-hmm. Lou Elizondo personally thanked John Podesta in his book, Imminent. So you are who you hang out with, is all I got to say. You got to be careful of the friends that you keep, because he doesn't keep good friends. And if he's hanging out with guys like John Podesta, okay. I think people know what I'm putting down there. But let's get back on track. You're right, with the Vegas case. I think we were at, boy, this is controversial already, Sean. Jeez.
I'm just trying to narrow.
This is what happens when we're doing an interview at 11 o'clock in the morning on my first cup of coffee on a Sunday.
Yeah, I had to stop drinking Dunkin', by the way.
Why?
Because it's made me like grotesquely overweight. So,
but Dunkin' Donuts,
the coffee.
Oh, coffee.
The sugar in it. So I just stopped drinking.
You drink tea?
I'm drinking coffee now, but it's like, it's not as good.
Yeah,
it's definitely good, but I was just drinking too much. I would like every day I'd have it, and just too much sugar.
Yeah.
So just cut it off.
Well, we all have our vices in this world. Now, the vice of the Vegas alien case is that these people, these guys, these visitors, I don't think they wanted to be on film, but they were. And we were able to prove that they were on film. We have the footage. We've shown it here on your show. It's all over the place.
Right.
And it's undeniable that they're there. In any event, I took another look at the case. And then the 911 call, in the 10-minute extended version, we actually hear Bobby, the father, when he's talking to the 911 caller, the dispatch agent, explaining that when he came out of the house, he was frozen. And he hadn't even seen the aliens yet. He heard the impact. He felt some kind of strange energy, and then he was frozen at the door. Like they could stop time almost with whatever their technology is. So I started looking at the technology aspect of it rather than the beings themselves. Because, I think at this point, we've identified 10 individual creatures in the footage, not just the two tall, 8 to 10 foot tall guys. We have those guys, clear as day. But we have a little guy too. Jim Quirk calls him the undeniable backbreaker, UB. And he's a classic gray alien, classic little gray guy, maybe 2-3 feet tall. But he's small, little guy. So I wanted to look at the technology, particularly the cloaking technology. So I did a lot of research, and I issued a 20-page addendum to my 28-page report and put it back out on the record. It's out there for public consumption. You guys can download it. Just Google it. You'll find it. Looking at the cloaking technology, and to my surprise, cloaking technology isn't that complicated, even for humans, right? Creating an electromagnetic field around you in a 360-degree, either manipulating waves or particles or microwave, and all different kinds of methods to project what's behind you, in front of you, and so on and so forth. And so I did a deep dive into the technology, and I basically issued a report showing how our terrestrial understanding of science today, just from the use of military, I think it's very obvious that they were using some kind of advanced cloaking technology. And I tried some theoretical calculations on what it could be and how it could work and what they would use and how they would manipulate it. And I issued that as part of the report. And I thought that was a nice add-on. And I did a call to action for other people in the field. Listen, I'm not a physicist. I'm barely a scientist, right? I do forensic science. I do blood spatter, bullet trajectory, terminal ballistics, very terrestrial, simple things. I'm what you would call an auto mechanic of the murder scene. Okay. I tell you how it happened, how it works. And I don't usually get into the why. I do the who, what, where, what, when, how, but I don't do the why. I leave that up for smarter people to do. And similar to this Vegas case, I did the who, the what, the where, and the how, but I need the people who talk about why and how to come in and do this. I'd like to see Avi Loeb talk about this. Matter of fact, I'm going to be interviewing Avi Loeb on my podcast next week, and we're going to be talking about the Vegas alien case. We're going to be talking about Lou Elizondo. We're going to be talking about weapons of war, Israel, and the pursuit of peace. It's really interesting. I consider Avi Loeb a friend of mine. This will be the 4th time I've interviewed him on my podcast, and we talk offline and email each other offline. And I kind of feel like I have my own personal Harvard physicist, at my fingertips. And he's a very, very generous man with his time. And I think people out there should take note. Never get too big to talk to people, regular people. And Avi is not that guy. He was in front of Congress asking for $1 billion, and now he's going to be talking with me, right? So I appreciate guys like that. Never get too big for your britches, as they say. And so Avi is going to come back into the time machine, and we're going to talk about Vegas and all kinds of things. And Avi, I give him a lot of respect. Back in 2023, October 7th, he was very pro defense, as I think everybody was. And then as this thing is stretched on, it's become apparent that there's a clear war crimes going on. And Avi Loeb is a Jewish man. And the last time I interviewed him, he said to me, we should stop investing in weapons of self-defense. I was like, why? And he said, because it propagates attack. The more you build up your defense, the more you're going to be attacked. And I don't disagree with him. I think Russell Brand once said, if you build bombs and weapons and so on and so forth, you will find a way to use it. Just the sheer buildup of military arsenal demands that it be used. Because if it just sits there and doesn't get used, you're going to stop making it. And if you stop making it, you stop making money, right? So a lot of people think less security, defense, it's about money. And Avi finally understood that.
Except for nuclear weapons, which in many cases we've forgotten how to make.
Good. I think we should forget how to make them, right?
As long as the other side forgets how to make them too.
Why did you tell us you're a doomsday machine? I just recently watched Dr. Strangelove, actually yesterday again. And there are lessons in that movie that movie should be played in every classroom, in every school, in every country around the world forever.
I love the scientist always has to keep batting his right arm down, the German scientist. He's like, oh.
I can walk. We must stop a mine shaft gap. Yeah, great movie. But the lesson, Oliver Stone played that movie for Vladimir Putin.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
It's George C. Scott's in that, right?
Yeah. He plays the best character in there. I forget the name of his character, but he plays this real excited general. And he's supposed to be like a version of Curtis LeMay, right? Yeah, I think so, right? Yeah. And I think the president is supposed to be like a Truman. The president's more like a Truman guy.
Anyway, back to Vegas.
Back to Vegas. So anyway, this Vegas case is...
So what does Avi Loeb have to do with all this?
What does he have to do with it? Well, I'm going to be asking him to peer review my work.
Okay.
I sent him a copy of my paper, and so he's going to come on the show, and he's going to give me his review. We're going to talk about other things, too. It's going to be a 1-hour show, and we're going to talk about the Galileo project, but we're also going to talk about the Vegas case, and we're going to talk about Lou Elizondo, and can we trust him? I feel like Lou Elizondo did a huge disservice to Avi Loeb and the Galileo project of basically tanking UFO disclosure by showing a crop circle irrigation ditch while Avi Loeb's trying to ask for $1 billion. Mm-hmm. So I don't know what you think about that, Sean, but I think that if you're going to hitch your wagon to a guy like Lou Elizondo and Christopher Mellon and News Nation, you got to be careful because they clearly have an agenda that's based strictly, I think, on serving themselves and the people that they represent. Whereas I honestly believe that Avi Loeb is not that guy. Yeah, he's asking for $1 billion. It's a lot of money. But I think Avi has a peaceful pursuit, a scientific curiosity. And I mean, he's a farm boy from Israel. He didn't, he's an actual scientist who is, I call him the blackboard badass, where he's not in the classroom as much as he is in the field, doing actual science. You got these other mouthpieces out there that don't really do science, but they talk science. So anyway, I'm going to have
Neil deGrasse Tyson.
Yeah, I think that was one thing I asked Avi Loeb. I said, should Neil deGrasse Tyson give up his PhD? And he's like, yeah, I think he should.
Yeah. Yeah, that's accurate. All right. So what else did you learn about Vegas?
Well, I learned that the Vegas case is being actively suppressed. Now, I filmed an episode of Ancient Aliens. I sat for 3 hours doing an interview, gave my best performance on my recitation of what I think happened and what we can prove and whatnot. And it was great. They're like, you're going to be episode 1, the whole hour. I'm like, oh, great. That's exciting. By the way, they don't pay shit over there. Oh my God. I
Did
lost.
Did they
I
pay you
lost
anything?
nothing really,
Did they at least pay for your flight
Yeah. I paid for my flight. That was it.
and your hotel?
Yeah. 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 That's
Okay.
it. That's fine. I think they gave me a taco. I got a taco. On one of our breaks, I had a taco. But anyway, I didn't do it for the money. I did it because I think it's a good case. But here's the suppression part. So we're going to be episode 1, the whole hour. And then I get a call about a month later. We're not going to do the whole hour. You're going to be the first segment of episode 1. I'm like, okay, great. Nice, thanks. And that was it was supposed to air in April. We taped it in January. And then I get a call. I called like a couple weeks ago. Like, what's going on with the episode? I thought we were going to air it in April. She's like, oh, your episode's not going to be played until July now. I'm like, oh, really? Why is that? Like, it's just, I don't know. We're going to play it in July. Now, I don't think they're going to play it at all. I think they're going to can it.
Yeah, because somebody got to them.
Yeah, somebody tapped them on the. Come on, they want more woo stuff. Maybe I should have wore a medallion. I don't know. Had a V shirt on with a big medallion, Then, because nobody attacks a guy wearing a medallion. Because you can't. He's got all that power, all that juice in that medallion protecting him. So maybe I'll grow some chest hair. I'll get a V-neck shirt from Italy. I'll wear a big medallion like Bobby Brady on the Brady Bunch when he goes surfing. And then we'll retape it or something.
Yeah, they probably just don't want that stuff.
Well, I think it's interesting, though. I mean, we've got absolute proof of visitors hanging out here on Earth. I don't think that these guys were dangerous because I think that they crashed. And who knows what it could have been. I try to put like a human thing on it. It could have been a couple of kids playing space ball. They win the game and they take the dad's spaceship and they want to go to Earth and have a couple of beers and look at the monkeys, and then they crash and they got to get hitchhiked. They got to get a tow out of there. Maybe it was something just simple like that. Everything doesn't have to be.
So Vegas, like new stuff. What updates?
Well, that was the update. The update was that there's an active campaign to kind of squash the case. And then, we got into the cloaking technology and I put that out in the report. There's new revelations in listening to the 911 call with the father also being paralyzed temporarily. And and it continues to be, I think, the most clear demonstration. I mean, short of the turkey UFO,
mm-hmm.
And I think here's the thing about the UFO videos. They only want it in English. If it's not in English, it's not going to get covered, right? Like the turkey one, that one is so beautiful and clear. Like we know that is a UFO. And you can even see the guy.
You can see the occupants.
Yeah, you can see them. I mean, that's the only video that I think is better than the Vegas case. But because it was in Turkey and they're not speaking English, people are like, whatever, right? And then in this case, in the Vegas case, they're not speaking English on the video. So they're like, So I think there's a bit of a barrier there. If it's not in English, it's not going to get the pub. So maybe there could be other explanations on why people don't want to talk about this case. But I think it's because it's not part of the controlled disclosure. It's not part of the disinformation campaign as brought to you by the Mellon Group. And I clearly think now that that's disinformation.
I think some of it's true. I think they're letting go of the tip of the iceberg, but they're spinning things away from stuff they don't want you to know. That's lower down the iceberg.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
like they won't talk about abductions. They won't talk about cattle mutilations. They won't talk about human mutilations. They won't talk about hybridization. They won't talk about. They're talking about the occult side, the paranormal side, but they're doing it in such a ridiculous way as to totally discredit it.
You can't have one without the other.
Yeah. Like the egg thing is like, I think that's meant to totally discredit it.
I think so. And so is Skywatchers.
Yeah, that's the same thing. Right.
Yeah, same thing. It's the egg guy with Skywatchers. Well, I mean, that's what gives fuel to guys like Mick West. who I call, like the McChicken sandwich. He's the McWest debunker.
And then Stephen Greenstreet. That's like candy
Oh
for
God,
Stephen
yeah,
Greenstreet.
that guy's ridiculous. And then John Greenwald as well. Is he a different guy than Greenstreet? Greenwald, Greenstreet. Think they know each other? Are they related? Greenstreet and Greenwald.
No, they're definitely not related. But
Yeah.
Greenwald, well, I'm not sure what to make of him. I think early on he was totally legit. He was the guy who asked for FOIA.
He's the FOIA guy.
documents.
Yeah. The Black Vault FOIA guy. But he, and I never really paid any attention to those guys until I started talking to Ashton Forbes. And boy, he really evokes some reactions from people. I think we're going to probably talk about that a little bit, but he's quite a character. He's definitely a bull in a china shop.
Mm-hmm.
And he's right. He's, over the target. And
he's over a target.
He's over somebody's target.
Yeah. There are aspects that, and we can talk about this in the next episode, but
yeah.
I think I've been the only person to like partially agree with him on certain things, but disagree on others, and the completely cordial and friendly relationship to this day still. Right?
Yeah, he's a smart guy. He's gone from being a computer programmer to a self-learned, scientist on some really complex issues. But I think here's the thing, and I know we're getting a little bit off topic, but I think it's important to say that the lockdowns of 2020, 2021, I think backfired on...
They more than backfired. I think they set the conditions for the end of the current American empire as we now see it. And more so in the sense that the elites who are controlling the systems from behind the scenes are losing control. And the more they try, and as a result, they're panicking and they're trying to exert even more control.
Yeah.
And it's just backfiring. So I'll give you an example. And you can tell that our elected officials are not really in control because the Trump administration just signed a $759 million contract with Palantir to develop a master file on each and every or master database on each and every American citizen.
Palantir, isn't that the one they own PayPal, right?
No. It's run by Andrew Karp. Was founded by, or it was Peter Thiel, who was the founder of PayPal,
right? Was
an investor through the Founders Fund. The Founders Fund is a venture capital firm that Peter Thiel founded with a few other former PayPal people, including, by the way, someone who was one of my fraternity brothers and is now the ambassador to Denmark, which is kind of interesting because the whole Denmark owns Greenland.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Well, we talked about that offline, which I think is interesting is from a world perspective standpoint. Well, Palantir, I mean, it does have a connection to PayPal, right?
Yeah, I mean, in the sense that the founders of PayPal invested in Palantir.
And in Palantir they have a connection with Israel, with Mossad as well, I'm assuming.
It depends. I mean, the CEO is also Jewish, but I don't know that necessarily means that they're tied to Israel.
Yeah, it's interesting. And did you know that TSA, PreCheck, and Clear have merged, and they're now the same company?
Oh, really?
Yeah. So I just got done traveling, and tell you what, the prices got too damn high. Remember that guy that ran for president of the United States? The price of things are too high.
The rent is too damn
high. And he is not wrong. I parked my car at the Detroit International Airport for the price of a VRBO, long-term parking for my car, $40 a day to park my car. $40 a day to park my car.
Yeah, I think they're inflating the currency in order to increase control, basically, right? Because if people are constantly forced to work
Yeah.
And, they get more illnesses. The illnesses help fuel pharmaceutical sales, and it just makes people more slaves to the system.
Yeah. I mean, we're tied into it. As long as we have this fiat money where it can just be floated up and down and, it's just fake.
Yeah, it's interesting. If you can print money, you still have to pay taxes.
Right.
Kind of interesting, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, yeah. What's the point of, it's just, we revolted from King George over a 2% tax on tea. But now the working class middle America is paying 30% tax minimum, right? I mean, I'm middle class. I'm not a wealthy guy.
By the way, we only had income taxes starting in, I think, 1913, So.
Really? There's no income tax prior to that?
No, I think most of it was financed through tariffs.
Tariffs. Ah. So now that Trump is doing the tariffs, I thought his big announcement the other day was going to be elimination of income tax.
That's never going to happen.
No?
No.
Boy, I'm sure people would sure get behind that.
Yeah, but that's never that. I don't believe that's ever going to happen.
Yeah. Isn't it? It's up to the president could eliminate the Department of Taxation in one sign of a pen, couldn't he? It's under because it's not in the Constitution. Taxes are, you don't need an amendment. You don't need a congressional bill. You could eliminate the IRS and the CIA with two strokes of the pen. You wouldn't need anybody. Donald Trump right now, if he wanted to, could eliminate the IRS with one stroke of a pen and could eliminate the CIA with one stroke of a pen, because both.
Yeah, but Congress will
constitutional departments.
Congress would use the judicial branch to claim that they had already.
Yeah.
So
I think it's all a perception in it, because and because like I'm looking at, for example, I don't want to jump too far ahead, but the people in Las Vegas, the Kenmore family, clearly this was an emergency to them. Right. They had their whole world turned upside down. They called the police. The police believe them. The police, to this day, it's an open file. Right. If they would have thought this was a phony phone call, the Kenmore family would have been put in jail. Felony, inciting a riot, lying to the police, unauthorized use of emergency services, all kinds of things, But they didn't. And then did you know that one of the responding officers that went into the backyard, whose body camera footage is still secret to this day, has not been to work since this happened? Medical leave.
Yeah, he's been bribed. Like, look, don't talk about this and you will have a nice, sweet paycheck coming in for the rest of your life. Have a nice life.
So he's on the golf course then?
I would think so. It's more effective to silence people that way than it is to threaten them.
Yeah.
Like, what would you do if you were threatened? Would you stop doing what you're doing, or would you double down?
I'd fight back.
Yeah, I would go into full wartime mode.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, listen, I'm in Ohio.
Like, I was just like, kill me. Do it.
Yeah. Do it.
And I'd be loud. I'd be totally loud about it. If I disappear, or like I am not feeling suicidal, this and that. And so
I happen to believe in the world after this one, Mandrake.
Yeah. Go ahead. Where I'm going is a better place.
Yeah.
Right. But they know that about people. So they probably said, look, just don't talk about this anymore, and you never have to work again.
Yeah.
Right?
That's possible. Yeah. And it's interesting. The guy that broke this story is a former.
And by the way, if it's delivered in a friendly, like, look, this is going to open all sorts of cans of worms, and you really don't want to be having the IRS look at you and audit you, and like, we could just pay you a nice stipend, for a contract, a no-show contracting job for security.
But it sounds like the mafia.
That's because it is. It's the same thing.
Did the mafia just simply transfer to corporate America in government?
Yeah. Well, they use the same tactics. They use identical tactics.
With similar people, even. If I did research one time on the original owners of NFL football teams, all tied to organized crime. Every single one.
Mm-hmm.
Every single owner of the National Football League, the original owners, all tied to organized crime. DeBartolo, all these guys. So I find it interesting. And, even like the Robert Kraft ties to organized crime when it comes to like other companies that used to be based in Cuba under the regime prior to Castro. Those were organized criminals working with dictatorial governments that were favorable to the United States and funneled, bananas and sugar, all organized crime products. The Dole Company, organized crime organization.
Yeah, I'm not surprised. All right. So, what else about the Vegas? Were you ever able to go back to the FBI? I know you would talk to the FBI initially,
Yeah.
and they said, yes, we know about it, but no, we can't really.
Yeah, and I was going to give them a presentation, and then my father passed away, and I kind of lost track of that. And then honestly, this year has been a pretty tough year. Just things are weird this year. 2025 is a bizarre year. And now I got busy with work. I'm working on it right now. And that's why we're doing this on a Sunday, because we were supposed to do this the other day. And I ended up getting a new investigation where the deadline's in 2 weeks. So I was up till Friday, all day Saturday, just working on this murder case. And it's due in 2 weeks, so we're all hands on deck. So that's why we're doing this on a Sunday. But the whole Vegas case with going to the FBI, I'm not sure if I'm even interested in doing that anymore. At some point, you got to look at what kind of skin you're putting in the game and what you're getting back. I put a lot of skin in the game on this case, and it's not making a big blip on the radar screen. I think I'm happy that I've put it on the record and that I'm now part of history for proving the existence of non-human visitors here on planet Earth. And I'm happy to take my award posthumously after my death, and one of my grandchildren.
Well, technically, you don't know if they're visitors, right?
Well,
but you do.
Well, they were visitors to this backyard.
Yeah, but they could have been here a long time, right?
Right. Yeah. Well, my uncle is part of this universe, but he doesn't just randomly land in my backyard. I'd call him a visitor too. So, I mean, but we're on the record. We're part of history. And when they write books 50 years from now about the UFO phenomenon at the beginning of the 21st century, we're going to be in the record books as being a key figure to do that. And I'm happy for that. I think that we did our job. I think involving the FBI is a futile operation at this point. I don't want to.
I think in literally every situation involving that organization, in literally anything, makes things worse rather than better.
I mean, and just one last thing about the FBI, that Dan Bongino. Have you ever seen anybody more uncomfortable lying than him?
Oh, I haven't. He was completely uncomfortable about it.
Like, I'm not a good liar. I'm a terrible liar. Ask my girlfriend. She'll tell you I'm a terrible liar. But Dan Bongino might be the worst liar in the history of the world. And he's just white knuckling it. And Kash Patel looks like a hostage.
Maybe they were both threatened. I don't know.
But I mean, have you seen the line about Jeffrey Epstein killing himself? Oh my God. Okay, so first of all, neither one of those guys are qualified to talk about that. Right. I'm qualified to talk about that. I've done hundreds of suicide investigations. I've done, I think, 50 full investigations, cradle to grave, no pun intended, on strangulation, asphyxiation, and ligature death. Hangings, choking, strangles, everything. Epstein did not kill himself. He was murdered. It's that simple. I did a whole show on it, on my show, Crime Scene
And
Times.
I thought the camera stopped while he was doing it. It was like it like worked before and it worked after, but during the act,
It's
didn't
amazing.
capture it.
It's really a surprise.
Now they're saying that they have video of it.
Yeah, and
That's
then
weird.
they're augmenting it.
Oh, that's good. Given the capability of AI, I could totally trust that.
The only way I would trust that video is if I had access to the video machine with original metadata, everything. But they're not going to give that to us. And, and really this whole committee with Luna and these guys, it's been the biggest failure I've ever seen on any committee. They had the committee on John F. Kennedy assassination.
Well, do you think it was an accident they put a former stripper in charge of the committee?
Is she a stripper? Is she a former stripper?
Yes.
Damn. She went from the pole to the house.
I mean, she did other things too. She has like military service and stuff like that. Like, I don't want to pigeonhole her in one thing, but yeah, you put somebody with something like that in their background, and it's easy to discredit anything they do. And I don't even think she may have not even have done it for very long. But it doesn't matter. It doesn't, like, you heard me just say it. You heard me just say it. What was your reaction when I said it? You probably thought she was doing that for years, and like that's all she did. But that's the point. Like, if she even did it for 3 weeks, you just say, yeah, she was a stripper, and it completely discredits everything.
WAP.
I'm not even going to comment on that.
Oh, WAP. I mean, that's part of pop culture right there. Well, God bless her. That's fine. I knew she was hot.
Yeah,
I didn't know she was
no judgment. Hot. Yeah, there's a reason.
Well, the reason I think that whole committee is a failure, that's my first time finding that. Shows how much I care about it. And Tim Burchett, he's got that, well, shucks, I'm just from the farm kind of attitude. These guys, none of these guys ever researched the UFOs before. They got put on that committee because they don't know anything. And I think they're getting bamboozled and taken over by the CIA and then all these other intelligence agencies. Lou Elizondo, Christopher Mellon totally destroyed it. And these people, I think more importantly than UFOs, were supposed to, UFOs, were supposed to talk about the Kennedy assassination. And the first thing they had up there was pretty good. At least they had Oliver Stone, right? The only guy up there who actually said anything of substance. And then the second one was just garbage. All the UFO things have been garbage. And then they're only authorized to do this until October. And they're supposed to still handle RFK, MLK, 9/11, and COVID. How are they going to do all of that? And then never going to talk about it again. And then he's going to go, well, we did our work here.
Okay. I have this is interesting. This is very interesting. ChatGPT. No, there is no credible evidence that Congresswoman Anna Paulina Luna worked as a stripper. The claim has been widely circulated online, but has been debunked as part of a coordinated disinformation campaign. A report by the Combat Anti-Semitism movement identified the stripper allegation as one of several false narratives alongside anti-Semitic conspiracy theories aimed at undermining Luna's credibility through personal attacks and misinformation.
Luna's Jewish?
She's part Jewish or something?
She looks Latino to me.
Well, she's definitely part Latino. What? Luna?
How is it anti-Semitic?
That's what I'm trying to figure out. Let's see.
Anti-Zionism is now anti-Semitic too.
She was raised as a Messianic Jew by her father, and she possesses a small fraction of Ashkenazi Jewish ancestry. Messianic Judaism is a religious movement that combines Jewish traditions with the belief that in Jesus as the Messiah. However, the movement is not recognized as a form of... Anyway, all right, I'll stop there, but let me go back to the...
She's a Jew for Jesus?
It sounds like it, but all right, so here's... Let me finish this, though, because this is how they spin things.
Yeah.
In reality, Luna has acknowledged working as a cocktail waitress at a gentleman's club in Fort Walton Beach, Florida, during a challenging period when her husband was recovering from injuries sustained in Afghanistan. She also worked as a swimsuit model, appearing in publications like Maxim and Sports Illustrated. However, there's no verified evidence that she performed as a... Okay, so she was a stripper. like, that
doesn't mean that of her on the stage, but she was by the stage.
If you were a cocktail waitress working at a gentleman's club, check.
I mean, that's what they sell. Even the strippers sell cocktails. That's all they do. Buy me a drink for $75 and this glass of water.
Yeah, and I'll take it back to the champagne room or whatever, right?
Yeah, right.
Yeah. So maybe she didn't. Yeah, that's how we're fed propaganda. She worked at a strip club. Okay, yeah. Can we say that? Yes.
In Fort Walton,
gentlemen's club. Gentlemen's club.
Clubs at Fort Walton. I've never been to a strip club at Fort Walton Beach, but I lived in Fort Walton Beach for a short period of time. And Fort Walton Beach is deep behind enemy lines by Edwards Air Force Base.
Wait, in Florida? I thought Edwards Air Force Base.
Oh, wait, what's the one in Florida in Fort Walton Beach?
Wait.
Florida.
Eglin Air Force Base?
Eglin. She worked
is that in her district?
Yeah.
Dude, you just I had no idea.
Eglin Air Force Base is where they reverse engineer the UFOs. So she knows what's going on. Her husband probably told her.
Let's see. Now I'm just checking.
Yeah, Eglin Air Force Base is in Fort Walton Beach.
Oh, no. Okay, so it's not located in her district, though.
Is it on the border?
I don't know.
Did she run from Fort Walton Beach?
No. It sounds like no. That's just where she worked as.
Well, if her husband was in the military, he was definitely based at Eglin, because that's, the whole city. Fort Walton Beach, Destin, Pensacola, that's all just military.
Yeah. Anyway, any final words for the audience?
Well,
on the Vegas case, mainly.
Well, I mean, open your eyes, folks. Look at the footage again. Look at my report. We'll make sure Sean's got a copy of it. So you can download it right there in the link. You'll have access to everything. And then contact me. Tell me your thoughts. I just, listen, there's nothing in it for me. I'm not pitching anything. I'm not selling anything. I don't even have advertisements on my podcast. I shut everything down. And it's just me. And we're just talking here. So if you want to join the conversation and be a part of history, come on over to the Crime Scene Time Machine and check it out.
Link below,
baby.
All right. Thank you, brother. See you soon.
If you enjoyed today's video, please hit like and subscribe, and also hit the notification button so you can be notified whenever I post new content. Thank you. Now, if you're enjoying the channel and you want to support it, there are several things you can do. In fact, there are 5 things you can do. The first thing you can do is just buy my books. I got plenty of books out in the market right now, and I would prefer that folks buy a book rather than giving me direct support, because they get something out of it. They get a real tangible product. The second way you can support me is by becoming a member on YouTube or becoming a patron on Patreon. And just go to either site and it'll explain everything. The third way you can support the channel is by checking out my merch site, which is here. There's plenty of stuff that you can get to support the channel. And I'd appreciate that you have it and you can wear it. Not only do you help support the channel, but you also help promote the channel, and I appreciate that. The fourth way that you can support the channel, and this is really easy, is anytime you want to buy something on Amazon, literally just go to the description below and click on any link, literally any link. The channel gets a cut of that. and it costs you no extra money. You just go through the link, as I'm part of the Amazon Affiliates Club. The fifth and final way you can support the channel is through donations. Now, I don't prefer these because it's more of a expression of gratitude, but you don't really get anything out of it as a subscriber to the channel. However, if you decide to do these options, there's two options. There's Buy Me a Coffee, which is a separate site. And there's also, you can go through YouTube with either a super chat, super sticker, or a super thanks. Again, I prefer Buy Me a Coffee because that organization takes less money than Amazon does. But either way, I appreciate any support you are willing to give the channel. So thank you very much and keep watching. I really appreciate it.